Ladies and gentlemen, in case you don't know, this is the Mess D'Souza, Felon, and the Mess is in myth rehab mode. He's got a movie coming out, that came out Friday, I guess, called Vindicating Trump, which no one is watching. And so one of the reasons why is because the act of vindicating Trump sounds fucking gross. And largely, vindicating Trump is just 2,000 mules with a couple of scenes cut out so that he doesn't get in trouble with the people that sued him over that got that movie taken down. Yes, Dinesh is a felon. He went to jail for campaign finance law violations. Not surprising. Money laundering, effectively. So anyways, he just wants you to know Donald Trump is truly self-made, people. This is, you may have heard that that the art of the deal is bullshit. I mean, honestly. I mean, honestly. That is a horrible, horrible lie against our former president. He is a self-made man, as will be cleared up in 2 minutes and 18 seconds by the Mess.
Trump has been heavily influenced by his father.
See, if you're going to bring up Trump, I would just not use the phrase has been. It's a bit of a Freudian slip.
And he has said so himself. And yet there are important differences between Trump and his father, and this is really...
Yes, agreed. I think Trump's father had sex with Trump's mother, and Trump only wanted to.
What I want to stress, the way in which Trump is self-made, he's a product.
Does it hurt to say Trump is self-made? Does your spleen crease or something? Made.
Product of his own imagination.
Right. Well, yes, he's a. I think it was Dirty Harry who said he's a legend in his own mind.
And we can see this in the ways that Trump is different from his dad.
Something in the way you're different. Something in the way you're not dad.
I think this is, by the way, also an answer to the people who say that Trump is just a product of nepotism. That's
yeah, I would say more just a silver spoon up the ass kind of a guy. I wouldn't say nepotism, because his father actually just protected him. You know, I think the only area where the nepotism would follow is that his brother got him into Horton when he didn't deserve it. That would be the one nepotism. The rest of it is just he grew up second generation rich kid and fucked up everything.
Somehow he inherited his whole fortune from his father.
No. He stole his father's fortune from his siblings and then he ground it into nothing.
That's simply not true. In fact, in his earliest property acquisitions, particularly the Commodore Hotel in New York, Trump's father refused to be part of it. I'm now quoting Trump from his book.
Oh, right. You mean one of the original failures of Trump's life.
The Art of the Deal, quoting him about his father. He goes, he refused to believe I was serious. His father thought, you're nuts.
And he apparently his father was a psychic as well.
And why did his father think that? Because
he raised him and knew him.
Fred Trump had made a very successful business with not low income, but moderate income, and
he was a slumlord.
Rent-controlled apartments in.
He was a slumlord.
In Queens. And Fred Trump said, this is a great business because a lot of these people are basically on subsidy or they're on retirement.
Yeah, subsidy, meaning the government pays their rent, the taxpayer. So So Donald Trump is the second generation rich kid whose father's fortune was made cleaving to the bosom of public assistance.
They pay regularly, they're older, so they're dependable. So we can make a steady profit, we can make a flourishing business, but let's
living off the government
stay in our place, so to speak. In other words, Fred Trump advised his son against going into business in cutthroat Manhattan. So what does Trump do? He crosses the bridge. That's the first crossing, and goes.
Yeah, that's spoken of in the Bible, obviously.
Into Manhattan. This is how he sort of changed his life. He changed the fortunes of the Trump company.
He became mobbed up.
Created the Trump brand. He became a national figure. He, in fact, created one of the most successful brands in the world.
I think Trump's airline, steak, vodka, casino, university would disagree.
Now, he didn't do that by leaving behind his father's teachings or virtues. Fred Trump was a frugal man. Trump is frugal. He was a cautious.
No, he isn't. He spends on himself lavishly, and he cheats his employees out of money.
Man. Trump is, believe it or not, quite cautious in his business dealing.
I'm sorry. We're talking about Donald Trump, right? Senior.
Oh,
okay. That's just it? Like, I guess it just...
Trump is, believe it or not, quite cautious in his business dealings.
Okay, we're just not going to get... That's it. That's the end of the video. That was literally where the Mess's editor cut it off. Because apparently, whatever examples he gave were ass. And of course, ridiculous, because Donald Trump is a terrible businessman, took his father's material wealth and turned it into a bunch of blather bullshit. I noticed also people were mentioning, along with Kristofferson, who we lost, Pete Rose has passed away. Apparently, it just announced. And I remember, as you know, growing up in Kentucky, and Cincinnati was our, the nearest professional team that we would watch. And it was Pete Rose is a big deal when I was a kid. So I'm sure I will talk to my mom about it. I guess my dad will have to call, because my parents have allocated out that my mom calls when people are sick. My dad calls when they die. So yeah. But there you go. Yeah, Trump still owes money to construction workers. He's a cheater and a rip-off artist, and he's gross, and that's true. Everything on the William Braddock, back up. William Braddock story, not right now, no. Sorry, rest in peace, Pete Rose and Kristofferson, especially. And by the way, the Kristofferson story, if you haven't heard, where he was like, Toby Keith told him not to get political, and he told him to go fuck himself, and asked him if he ever wore the uniform of his country, because Kris Kristofferson was a helicopter pilot. He served in the Army. He was, he did you ever cash the check that the government pays you to kill somebody? I didn't think so, so shut the fuck up. And his line at the end of that story, if you haven't, he was an Army Ranger, at the end of it, apparently he said to Willie Nelson about Toby Keith and the new country. He said, these guys did to country music what pantyhose did to finger fucking. And that's just magic. That, as analogies go, fuck, Kris Kristofferson, way to just... he cut through the bullshit. Amazing. Yes, he was a Rhodes Scholar. He's a Renaissance man. He did tons of stuff. Just amazing. So, and he was amazing in Blade. He was great in The Rose, the original version of it. My mom had a big crush on him in the 70s. He looked like a cross between like a hippie Charles Bronson mixed with Steve Martin. Like he was like aquiline, blue-eyed, rugged dude, and a great songwriter. And John Ashton, So John Ashton has passed away. He was Taggart to most people in Beverly Hills Cop, in the Beverly Hills Cop movies, but also he was in Midnight Run as Marvin. He's fucking fantastic in it. So naturalistic. Such a, so much fun to work with, everybody said. So, his Star is Born was very well acted. Oh, yeah. Star is Born, he was fantastic in that. Midnight Run is a brutally underrated movie. Yes, it is. It's so goddamn good. And you know who's really good in it? Like, everybody's really naturalistic in it. It's fantastic. But Joe Pantoliano in his scenes with Robert De Niro, rather, are fucking genius. Yeah, like the two of them together, you know, where he's like, he's pulling the money out of his sock when he has to pay him, and they're at the diner, and they have this like little scene together between De Niro and Johnny Pants, and they're and he's like, it's like $100,000. It's an easy gig. It's a midnight run, for God's sakes, you know. When has that phone ever rang and with a complaint about me? When has that ever, like, he's so fucking good in it. Joe Pantoliano, he's so terrific. And Grodin is terrific in it. But, like, John Ashton was just lovely in that movie. And, again, fit right in. Naturalistic, you know, tight with everybody else. And when you're operating in a room with, you know, with De Niro and people like that, even if you are equal to him as an actor, and many people are, it can be intimidating in the space, right? Just to be there working with him, and you know, it can stiffen some people, it can lessen their ability, right? And you know, John Ashton was one of those that just kind of zipped right by. Yes, and Maggie Smith, people brought up. That was yesterday, a day before yesterday. Yes. So, anyways, do you think people in North Carolina will be able to vote in November, even though they have no home? Yes. Yes. Everybody who's in the flood and stuff will be able to vote. They'll move around some voting booths in some places, but they'll be able to do it. What movie? Midnight Run. Please watch Midnight Run, in honor of John Ashton and the you know, and the original Beverly Hills Cop and 2, 1 and 2. 3 doesn't exist. The new one's not bad. It's not bad. But yeah, Grodin Stern fights were classic. Charles Grodin, like, his stuff with Letterman is legendary as well. And if you want to see Charles Grodin at his most relaxed, it's Midnight Run and The Lonely Guy. I'm talking about somebody who just, like, smoothly leans into the part, you know, whereas, like, seems like Old Times and a couple of those other movies, there's a lot of movies where it's slightly heightened, almost play-like in some places, because it's a higher form of comedy. But yeah, Grodin, in his character in Lonely Guy that he comes up with is so fucking awesome. Real Life is an awesome movie. Yes, Real Life, the most prescient of all of Albert Brooks's films.